Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, StreetBeefs fighter Marcus Grisby. I hope I'm saying that the right way. This man has a very, very inspiring journey. Some of the things he's overcome in his life to get where he is truly inspirational. So as always with this podcast, there's the inspiration, the hope, the positivity, but we will also be talking about boxing, MMA, Street Beefs as an organization, a little bit about how they work because they've got quite a unique format as well. Very, very exciting promotion. So all the good stuff. So stay tuned, everybody. But before we get into that, Champ, Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the show and thank you for taking time out of your day for this.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. So, like I mentioned just now in passing, obviously you're very well known for street beefs and everything. We're going to get into that very soon with like your journey through boxing, MMA, everything else. And at the moment, you're having a lot of success with that. But your life obviously wasn't always like this. There were some dark times as well. So when we talk about this today, we'll talk about the past, we'll talk about the present, and we'll talk about the future because I believe that the best is yet to come for you in your life. The future is very bright. But let's start with where you came from to get where you are now, just giving that the context, because you've had some struggles and you've come a long way from where you started. So share as much or as little as you'd like to about that. I don't mind because it's quite personal and it's also quite brave to be putting this type of thing out there in the public eye. So there's no pressure on this. But basically, addiction, some of the troubles you've been through, your journey. Let's start there with what your life was like before we get into what your life is like, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'll just start at like the year I started fighting, basically, because and then you could just ask me questions after that. But yeah, 2019, I was just going through some personal stuff, doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing, just wasting my time. Uh, Ended up like crashing my car, had to get a new car. Then I was selling drugs, um, got pulled over and arrested for that. Got called a charge for distribution, facing 7 years and stuff. Um, in the process of all that, I had watched Street Beefs before, but like they were just letting people come fight that had disputes, because that's what they basically started from. That's it. That is what they started from, helping people solve disputes, whatnot. So I was like, man, how am I gonna? I can't go on there. I can't fight on there because you have to have somebody who wants to fight. But yeah, years later, after I caught my charge, they popped up on my YouTube again, and they were letting people come fight, and I thought they were like hours away somewhere, but they're in Winchester, and that's like 45 minutes from where I'm from, and just sitting at home after getting arrested and stuff, and I was just like, I guess I'm gonna try and do this now, and started blowing up the YouTube videos and whatnot, and yeah, then they hit me in the comments and stuff and set me up with a fight, and ended up having my first fight at the end of that year in December. But before all that, like my grandfather passed away too, so I was dealing with all that. So in the end, fighting helped me get away from a bunch of that stuff and take my mind off things.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying at the beginning, it's amazing how you've turned it around, really. So, like I was saying at the beginning, no dwelling on anything negative and everything, but just to illustrate like how far you have come with this. With that whole charge, like the whole distribution thing and everything like that. I mean, what actually happened with that, because you mentioned you were like looking at the 7 years. Was
Yeah.
there time served for that, or was there some type of plea bargain type thing, or what went on in that situation, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, I had pretrial services, so they were like monitoring me and stuff to see what they were gonna do, see how I was gonna behave before I went to court. So I was dealing with that stuff, and then like the that November, like the week of Thanksgiving, my grandfather passed away, and then I had to go to court like later that week, and I was so nervous because it's like the biggest charge in court date of my life, you know. Um, so I was like thinking, man, if I go to jail, I'm gonna miss my grandfather's funeral and stuff. So yeah, I was going crazy almost. But they just gave me 7 year, not 7 years, 2 years of probation, supervised probation, and then in December I started fighting and stuff. So yeah, told him I was already fighting and I was training to fight. And then yeah,
Yeah, it makes
I told
sense.
him I was training to fight and stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. And am I correct in saying that? Because I saw something on your Facebook about like you being, I mean, I won't say addicted, but like basically drinking or doing drugs yourself. Am I correct in saying that, or am I off base?
Yeah, you are. It's I had like I took classes, I had to take classes this whole time, so I learned a lot about that stuff. Uh, I classify myself as a high functioning addict because like I was working and stuff, you know, I was going to the gym. Like I'm a healthy person, but I was just using a bunch of stuff and for a long time from like 2011 to like yeah, 2019, I was just or not 19, like last year I was just using a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have, you know. But yeah, all that stuff happened when I was fighting and I just got depressed and ended up going back to stuff I shouldn't have and you know, it just goes downhill if you don't stop. Um, yeah, it's basically I was using uh substances like pills and stuff, smoking weed. I mean, I have my medical card now because I mean it helps with my anxiety, but all the other stuff was unnecessary.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it affected
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, man, where, like I mentioned to you before, putting some of this stuff out there is a brave thing to do. There's no two ways about that, man. Speaking about it for the first time, I mean, I don't know how much you speak about it, saying that, but nonetheless, I appreciate you being open book is what I'm trying to say and being open about this, these hard times, because as I said earlier, if you can change, it shows that anybody can change. And, I like to get into that side of it before we go sort of headlong into the fights and everything. When you decided to sort of make these changes in your lifestyle and obviously focus on the fighting, focus on something positive, change some of these habits and whatnot. I mean, just walk us through like basically what was going through your mind at that time, how you made some of the changes, how you got out of some of those circles, and how you started to sort of flip a negative situation into like a positive situation, if you get what I mean with that, and how you started making those changes.
um I mean it was I hit rock bottom and I just didn't want to like my son to grow up and his dad to be a bum and not be able to provide for him, you know. I didn't want to be somebody walking around literally homeless because I almost was. I was living in this real dirty place, and I was just like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm gonna go crazy. Like I don't know. I'll probably just end up making things worse. But at the same time, I was like, that's dumb. And I have the realization of like, I don't want to live like that because like who should and who does, you know what I'm saying? Like I want to have my house with my bed and like my nice car and all that stuff. So, and I didn't have anything. I barely had any clothes. Like I had like two pairs of pants and like three pairs of shorts and a couple of shirts. So I mean, like now it was a couple months. I was like 6, 7 months ago. And now I mean, material things aren't everything, but you know, I got clothes and a car now, a better job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a lot of respect for that, man, because coming from where you've come from, it's not easy, but like I mentioned, it's possible, and you show how it's possible. I mean, I don't know how you see this for yourself, in terms of like when you look at your own life, if you see it as an inspiration or if you're seeing it just as a day-to-day struggle to get from one place to another. But from like where I'm sitting and from like the outside looking in, it's definitely an inspiration. And as I mentioned, I think the best is yet to come, because you know what they say, when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. And obviously, it sounds like you're on the way up, if that makes sense, and that's still going. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. So I mean, because I know it's a work in progress. You was very straight up about that earlier on, but it's cool. So with the fighting side of things, boxing and MMA and everything, you mentioned a little bit about street beefs, how they popped up in your on your YouTube or whatever, and you were interested in that. So basically, I'd just like to get into like maybe your first couple of fights, or like basically your entry into street beefs, and what it was like adapting to combat, adapting to the environment, and just getting into it full swing. So yeah, the first couple of fights in your own words, please. That'd be awesome.
Um, my first fight, it was pretty surreal because it'd be like it's like a seeing something on TV and then actually being there. Like you don't think you're ever gonna be there. It's like traveling the world, seeing beautiful places. You're like, it's crazy. So that's what it was like showing up there. But um, watching them on YouTube, it's a bunch of people beating each other up. So you think you go out there and it's like a bunch of intimidating people and stuff. But they're friendly. They're super friendly. It literally is like a family. Um, you know, uh, they all live close to each other. They all go to the same gym, work out together. They do like everything together. Like play basketball, play football with them before, spar with them a couple times. Um, yeah, they're real cool. But the my first fight, I showed up. I talked to Scarface. He was cool. I thought he would be. He looks intimidating. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was really cool, friendly guy. We're actually cool. I hit him up and talked to him here and there. But yeah, watching fights all day, it was super cool. Met a bunch of cool people. Like Baby Hog. He was in my corner actually. My first fight, he chilled around. Watched a bunch of fights that day and was in my corner. Um, I saw Demon Monsoon fight. Super close with him. We're cool. Um, I can't remember who else I saw fight. It was a good day of fights. It was cool. Um, but yeah, when it was time for me to get in there, it was crazy. It was like extra surreal. I almost don't remember fighting at all because it was that crazy. It was also super cold. It was like 30 degrees outside. Yeah, I
Wow.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's amazing story, the start of your journey. Now, when we were talking on Facebook and we were setting this up and everything, you obviously sent me your record, but for anyone who watching this who doesn't know, maybe they're sort of hearing about you for the first time and whatnot. Can you share with us how many fights you've had and everything so far?
Boxing, 10-5. Um, MMA, I'm 1-2, and I did a jujitsu match with my friend, and I'm 0-1 and just like wrestling jujitsu matches.
That's cool. Yeah, trying different styles as well. I got respect for that, like moving outside of your comfort zone and moving into
Yeah.
different things. We'll come back into some fights now, but you mentioned earlier, about like anxiety and about nerves and everything. And same thing here, nothing negative, just something that I think will interest people, because that's such a big thing in this day and age. I totally get how that goes. I've been there myself, by the way. So I totally get you on that one. But is that something that you still like you have to deal with before fights, like the nerves and pressure, or do you feel more like relaxed and chilled before fights? I'm just curious, like about your personal process, as you mentioned the anxiety thing and sort of having to deal with that.
I mean, I manage it pretty well now. My first couple fights, I would be really anxious, like almost the whole month, and then really the week leading up to it. But now, and I'll be really tense and anxious in the ring because I'm not used to it, just like anybody would be with like a bunch of people watching you do something. But after a while, in the ring at least, I realized I've gotten a lot calmer and more confident and stuff, and just I was just overthinking and uh, just overthinking. And I just need to think less when I'm in there a little bit. But yeah, just like I'm supposed to fight April 1st. It's like butterflies now. I just can't wait to fight. Like I wish I was fighting tomorrow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, this is the thing, like excitement and nerves, like they're similar, or they can be similar if they're used right. So I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that, you know. And you know what they say, a little bit of adrenaline is good, like it keeps you sharp, you know, it keeps you on point, like, you know, but then too much, then it becomes tiring and whatever, you know, and it's natural, man, you know. I mean, even like I've done so many of these interviews, I never get nervous or anything anymore. But right before like it turns on, you get like a little buzz, like a little like a butterflies, like the flush, you
Yeah.
know. But then it's good because it's
Yeah.
not like nerves, it's just like the natural, like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And that's you know, that's what keeps you sharp, man, you know. So I think that's natural doing anything you enjoy. But you know, it's a good lesson for people, good life lesson for the people as well. So obviously being a fighter has like improved you as a person, obviously in terms of like what I mean by that is what you were just saying now, like you're learning to sort of handle the pressure, handle the nerves and things. Obviously, you've changed a lot of bad habits. Would you say like being a fighter has sort of made you more confident or maybe more comfortable in other areas of your life, or maybe has it made changes like positive changes to you that then show up in other areas of your life, like your work or your family or whatever, if you get what I mean with this one?
Yeah. It helps with discipline, help me with my discipline more, because you gotta be focused, you gotta stay to a routine, like going to the gym, getting certain amounts of sleep, making sure you get enough training in, not slacking and stuff. Um, so it helps me take everything more serious too. I was kind of like I still am, but I do take things more serious. I was like a nonchalant person, like didn't really care about too much, but that also had to do with like my substance abuse and all that and whatnot. Um, yeah, it also helped me improve. Like I'm a lot healthier and whatnot, more focused on things.
Absolutely, yeah. The clarity it brings, I mean, that's going to be a big one. So obviously you've had quite a few fights actually, you know, if you add them all up, the different styles we mentioned just now. Do you have favorite ones like so far, you know, ones that stand out for you as being like your personal highlights type of thing?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I was just thinking about that the other day. My first fight, I like my first fight because it's just my first fight. Um, my fight with King Madness, because that's when you can start seeing my movement, like head movement, improvement. And then my Hells on Wheels challenge with Hells on Wheels when we put the wheelchairs together and fought. That was just super fun. And then my fight versus Papa Bear is probably my best fight so far.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Your personal highlights. I love asking that question because you never know which fight's gonna actually pop up as being someone's favorite, you know. What about like your toughest opponent or like your most challenging fight so far? Like obviously this can be in different ways because I know that sometimes challenging fights can be like what happens outside the ring as well. It's going on in your life, or sometimes it can be like from a technical perspective, sometimes it can be somebody's power. So it does come in different forms if you get what I mean. But nonetheless, like for you, which ones stand out as being like your you know your toughest tests so far type of thing?
Um, I say this guy. Well, there's two actually. And for different reasons. I fought this guy, General J, and I ended up losing that day. Because I was in the midst of like falling back into substance abuse and stuff, and I was just wasn't taking care of myself all the way. So that obviously affected my fight, but also that same day, my son was born. So I was supposed to fight that day. So I wake up and get ready and stuff, and I go to leave the house, and I like my girlfriend stays home, and so I'm driving by myself, and I just have this weird feeling like something's telling me to stay home, but I kind of just ignored it and end up going anyways. And then the day's gone by, and then she texts me like she's going to the grocery store and stuff, and then she ended up texting me she doesn't feel that well, but it was after I had fought or something like that. I had fought, and then like a little bit after, her mom called me and said they were going to the hospital, like she was having our son because our water broke and stuff. And I'm all the way in Winchester. It's like a 45-minute drive, and yeah, I just started panicking and stuff. And then her mom calls me back like 10 minutes later, and she's all like, "Yeah, you don't have to rush her because she already pushed your son out and everything." But I still rushed to the hospital. But that whole day, I just felt like something was off. Even when I was fighting, I just couldn't focus. I couldn't figure it out until after my son was born. That's probably why something in the universe was trying to send me signals.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know, that intuition. Um, all I can say about that is like, you know, when you get that, it's always best to listen to it because even though it can seem totally like not logical and it can seem totally like not what you planned or whatever, like usually it is like that trying to get through, you know, and I'm a big believer in like like fate and destiny and all that type of thing. But congratulations, man, on the birth of your son as well. And you know, family's a beautiful thing, and it really sounds like it's helped you make some of the changes as well, like we were talking about earlier. So I'm happy for you. You know, I mean, family is the ultimate blessing. Um, cool. Okay, so that was the toughest test, and not as well as that though. I mean. Street Beefs, like an organization, I mentioned earlier, you know, working with them, you mentioned that they're all super friendly and everything like that. Let's just give a quick shout out to what it's like actually fighting for them, what it's like actually at an event, because you can watch the like the YouTube and everything, and that's one thing. Um, Obviously, I'd imagine actually being there is a totally different atmosphere, like with the setup that they have. So what's it like there in terms of just the vibe, in terms of like the energy, the you know, the crowd all shouting and watching the fight. You know, you get what I mean. Like it looks like an
Yeah.
electric atmosphere, you know?
Oh yeah. It's a great time. Everybody's friendly. I always meet somebody new there, either before or after I fight. You know, people are coming up to me sometimes, you know, like I seen your fights, or I seen you fight last time you were here or something. After I fight, you know, people are telling me good job, you know, just if I'm just hanging out, you know, people are coming up to me saying good job, talking to me. I take pictures with people sometimes, you know, uh, just be hanging out really, just people just hanging out, boxing, fighting all day. Like they'll be in between fights. Sometimes they'll be playing football, like throwing footballs, just hanging out, sparring with people between fights. Uh, you know, just talking about the fights as they're going on, just joking around with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's like a fun atmosphere. I mean, it does. When I've had a few guys on this show from Street Beefs, you know, Demon Monsoon you mentioned earlier, he's been on the show and there's a guy, Big Smile. You know, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was on the show, and there's a few different guys, and they all mention like the respect, you know, like the next level respect that people have for each other, like a big family, and that really comes over in what you're saying as well. So it's awesome, awesome organization, incredible work they're doing. The other thing I think is super cool, actually, that you mentioned to me is you actually train yourself for fights. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, because that takes some next level dedication to actually be training yourself and sharpening your own skills. So yeah, let's get into your training routine a little bit and that type of thing as well.
Um, yeah, I've always been an athletic person. I played football in school and stuff. Um, oh, like skateboarding. I've always liked playing sports, you know, being in shape. All through high school, I took a bunch of strength training classes, so I took a big interest into that. Obviously, um, learned a bunch of stuff about that, and just been working out on and off since I graduated high school, you know. Um, but yeah, I'll just be watching a bunch of videos on YouTube or looking up stuff and just reading stuff on the internet. And yeah, that's basically how I do it. And then just basically watching copy almost. I'll be buying like I had like this one rubber band ball attached to my forehead and like it's a focus ball. You just hit it and it like bounces back. It's like almost like a little cat toy or something, but it's for boxing. But yeah, I just do that. And I would spar with people here and there. Like I said, I would spar with Scarface and all of them at events. And when he lived in I think he lived in Winchester before he moved to where he lives now. I would go down there sometimes and just spar with him down there.
Very cool, man. I mean, that's oh, I think that's awesome to be fair. Like, like a self-made fighter, really, I mean, it's got a lot of respect for that, very cool, very cool. So obviously, as we mentioned earlier, you've had like a bunch of fights. What was your inspiration to try the different styles, like you mentioned earlier, like the jiu-jitsu type of thing you mentioned, like MMA? Obviously, it's primarily boxing, but instead of sticking to one thing, you obviously fancied like testing yourself across different styles. What was the initial inspiration for that, like switching it up a little bit?
Um, I just like it all, you know. I like all of it. Boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, you know, kickboxing, just jujitsu, all that stuff. I just I just like I mean honestly my favorite besides just going like all out like wrestling and doing all that, I like kickboxing and Muay Thai the most. Like out of fighting styles.
Yeah.
Those are I try and like if I were to actually train and go to a gym, I'd probably like look like a kickboxer or something or a Muay Thai fighter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's a wild sport. It's incredibly skilled, and it's just, yeah, something special. I'm a huge fan of that as well. I've had loads of guys on this show who are like top level fighters in Muay Thai and and like K1 and all the different kickboxing styles. So
Yeah.
definitely, which obviously leads into where you'd like to go from here. I mean, you've had a bunch of fights. What are your future plans? What's motivating you like for your next steps and everything?
Just being able to take care of my family and just making sure I don't go back to how I used to be is my motivation for everything that I'm trying to do. But I just want to I want to fight, get a couple fights this summer, and then try and get a title shot out there, try and get the belt out there. Um, and then just for like my personal life outside of boxing, still pertains to stuff like that. Like I want to become a personal trainer and try and like start my own business and stuff. But I also want to like start a rehab and be a rehabilitation person and like get people off drugs and give them show them they can have fitness and it's way more better and all that stuff for them. Because the way I figure it is like uh if you have give somebody if you put somebody in like a halfway house and then give them access to a gym and then give like a personal trainer they can kind of have all the time or just they can access the gym once they start learning stuff like if they're in the middle of the night and they start having a like an itch or a urge or whatever, just like go work out and think about your life and while you're working out, thinking about how much healthier you're becoming and everything that you're trying to do to make your life better. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of I know that doesn't work for everybody, and there's other stuff that goes along with physical fitness, but that helped with me, so that could probably help with other people. Other people can at least give it a try.
Absolutely, yeah. I love that, man. I got a lot of respect for giving back and making like a positive impact on other people's lives and everything. So I hope that that's something that you do. I mean, getting a belt as well. Good luck with it. And like
Yeah,
when like a few more fights down the line, we can always catch up again as well and give like an update to people, and see how that goes. I'd be open to that. One of the last things to mention as we come into like the latter phase of this talk is obviously, I'd like to get your advice for people who are going through like substance abuse or whatever. I mean, you've sort of given that in a way, like you said about fitness and you said about like changing your lifestyle, but just to go a little bit deeper, man, because you've been there, you've hit rock bottom, you're coming back up now, and things are going really well for you. And like I've said, I think the best is yet to come. But somebody out there watching this, because when I put this out, it goes like around the world. And the thing is, like even where I am in the UK, it's exactly the same, man. Like with drugs and with the things people go through, it's except for like in the USA, except for the guns and that element, we don't have so much of that. But like in terms of everything else, like with people doing drugs, dealing them, people got the same problems wherever you go. So I think it's a great like platform for you to put your advice out there, and hopefully it will like touch somebody's life who's listening to this. What would you say to people who are going through what you were going through?
Um, you just gotta literally change everything that's bad about your life, or like negative, like people, your environments, how you're spending your time, even what you're eating and drinking, you know what I'm saying, what you're consuming, all the negative and bad stuff, you gotta change it, and then start replacing it with better stuff. And eventually, like, the energy you try and create and keep yourself around will, stuff will start like gravitating towards you, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if I if I'm out there just doing a bunch of bad stuff, no one's gonna come up to me with a scholarship for a school or something and try and get me to go to their school or be like a CEO of their business, or you know. But if I'm out there trying to do stuff and making a portfolio and stuff that pertains to that stuff, then that opportunity is more likely to happen than me just walking down the street. So that's my, I know that was kind of like plain and simple, is easier said than done also, because you have those temptations and urges and stuff like that, and triggers, you get frustrated about stuff and then you just want to give up and go back, but then you have to remember like what you're going back to exactly. Is that really going to make your problems easier, or is it just temporarily going to erase them?
Yeah. Some good advice that is, man. I mean, it's some really, really good advice. And yeah, I mean, you say plain and simple, but I don't know, because it's right from the heart. It's right from what you've personally been through, and it is easier said than done, but it's definitely doable. And your life, it shows people that it is doable. I don't know if you see it that way, but you know what they say. You know what one person can do, another can do, and at the end of the day, you're doing it, and it shows other people can as well. You can chase something that you have as a dream. I mean, whether it's fighting or whether it's something else, whatever, but it's possible if you believe in it and you work for it, And yeah, I'm changing who you spend time with and what you put into your body, what you put into your mind as well. They're very, very valuable lessons. So pretty much, I mean, we've talked about some good things today. The only other thing I'd like to mention is what you would say to people who um watch your fights like anywhere, because obviously there's the people who come physically to the fights, but like the people who watch on YouTube and all of that stuff, whether it's anywhere in the USA, whether it's in another country like in the UK where I am or whatever. I mean, actually StreetBeefs has got quite a big following over here as well. So there's probably people watching you all over the world. What would you say to those people who take the time to do that, basically?
um Thanks for the views. First of all, I try and put on a show and do my best every time. um Whatever you guys are thinking about doing or trying to go out there and achieve, and you think it's unrealistic, you don't know until you start trying to do it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought being on there was never going to happen, and then I ended up being on there, you know what I'm saying? And if I didn't try and go on there, I also still wouldn't have been on there. So you got to put some effort into it if you want to do it, you know what I'm saying? It's not just going to come to you.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You want something bad enough, go and get it. I mean, that's the rule. Well, I mean, we've talked about some good things today, and I know we've obviously with your fights, we talked about the highlights and everything. And I know there's a lot of fights you've had. There's a lot of good things yet to come. I personally look forward to following your journey from here, like the next stages and everything. I hope everyone else does as well. And I'll just say to anyone watching this, listen to this, keep an eye on this man. He's doing some big things, turned his life around. Obviously, you're on social media as well, so people can reach out and get in touch with you. I'd advise anybody to do that. Obviously, if anyone is struggling, I'd imagine they can reach out to you as well, and you can have a chat with them and give them a little bit of advice. Um, but no, we've talked about some good things. So the last thing for me to do is just to say thank you for coming on the show and thank you for taking the time. And last but not least, thank you for speaking from the heart and being an open book, because we have gone into some personal stuff. So I appreciate that very much.
And thank you for your time too. Thanks for having me and giving me this time. I
Well,
appreciate it.
it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.